Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Late Night with Chefs. Truffle Boy and Doug reporting for duty, and we have an amazing guest chefs tonight. Nude Dude Foods, Chef Ryan and Chef Seth in the house tonight. How is everyone doing tonight?
What's up? We're doing great. Thanks for having us.
Awesome.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, we're super excited having you guys on the show. I've been a true fan following you guys, back to the early days, and it's been amazing and inspiring to see you guys just keep, perfecting and stepping it up and doing some incredible things in the local and Chicago community. So big props on that, and thank you for putting in that and inspiring a lot of, young chefs.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I know we've interacted over the years as well through IG and socials, and we're super excited to be on the show tonight. And yeah, and really grateful for the opportunities that we've been given over the years. It's been a lot of work for us to even get to where we are, and also even just COVID, turning the world upside down has been extremely difficult for everybody in the industry. But yeah, we're still working our asses off and doing what we can to feed people and stay in business, and that's what we're all about.
Awesome. Well, we're super excited to learn more about you guys tonight. And if you guys can just start us off with like an introduction of, how did you guys become passionate and what were your first encounters in the culinary and hospitality world, and, what kind of drove you into this wonderful field?
Yeah, for sure. And again, I'm Seth. This is Ryan. You can call me Ryan. You can call him Seth. We kind of both answer the same thing. We've been friends for a long time. I'm sure we'll get into that too. But I mean, food wise for us was, I think we both get it from our fathers. Ryan's dad was a longtime firefighter and chief of the fire department. So kind of his first cooking experiences were in the kitchen, cooking for the firefighters. My dad is also a great cook. Really knowledgeable, but doesn't like to use recipes, which I think is a great way to learn how to really deal with food and really learn how to cook when you kind of just go off the beaten path. So some of my first food experiences were with him. I've got pictures in my old photo album of me like in my underwear kneading bread on the counter when I was 3 years old. But I was kind of a picky eater as a kid. That developed over time. We've lived together for about 10 or 11 years as well. So really we started cooking a lot more when we started living together, sometimes 5-6 hours a night at home. Friends and family would come over and kind of taste test the food. I have 15 years of front of the house hospitality experience from various restaurants as well. And Ryan was a former social worker. So being in front of people and connecting with people on a very personal level was always natural for us. And it only took kind of a matter of time and a matter of a number of years while we were honing our cooking and baking skills to kind of put it all together, and Nude Dude Food was born out of all of that.
What a story. I think that's so important to hint on the, aspect of being able to communicate with your guests and sort of, have that personality with your guests. I think it's definitely a side of the, quote unquote, back of the house lifestyle that isn't so, sought after, or, there's chefs who have anxiety to go out into a dining room. And it's definitely important to be able to connect and, interact with your guest.
For sure. Yeah, we're super happy to do kind of play both roles, be able to do in the front of house, back house. We really want to make that experience, about the food, but also that experience as a whole. So, the atmosphere when we come out to present a course and talk about where we're sourcing the flour and the ingredients and the easy yet really fruitful ways to prepare, the food, not only educates our guests, but also, entertains and informs them, and really just makes that experience, a 360 experience, not only for us cooking all the food, but also presenting it, literally serving, cleaning. We're doing every bit of the business and all the client-centered work as well.
So I know Nude Dude Food has a little bit of, two different outlets. So you guys do catered events, but I know you're also starting something up in the West Loop where you guys actually have a stationary, for sale pizza and sourdough, correct?
Yeah, so it started, we're almost coming up on our 4-year anniversary of the business. Started as in-home private catered dinner. So like Seth said, we were always hosting dinners in our own homes, backyard barbecues. And then it got to the point where we came up with obviously a clever name and kind of business idea, and just took what we were doing in our own home and took it on the road. So we started doing private in-home dinners ranging from fun bachelorette parties to brunches to small weddings. But that's really how it started for the first 3 years of the business. But like you said, when COVID shut down the city and everyone was in lockdown last year, we took over a closed restaurant in Fulton Market. They have a big Hobart stand mixer in the basement, and we started baking sourdough bread weekly. Maybe we're no publican, but we're baking 150 loaves a week at the time. We were giving them away to industry workers, frontline workers, anyone who really needed to be fed. And then once we were in that space and it was vacant and no restaurants were barely even operating, let alone opening business at the time. So we started doing we tested sourdough pizza since we were doing so much bread at the time. And again, slowly when things started opening up, you got all these new pizza restaurants and Michelin star chefs making pizza now. But it was a great way for us to still stay connected with the community and our fans and followers by being able to provide them with some food or some service, because we couldn't go into their homes doing our private dinner. So we're still doing both. We're doing a lot more stuff at the restaurant now. So we're open on weekends, primarily doing carry out, delivery, and now some dine in. Sourdough bread. We have sourdough bread and charcuterie boards, salads, and hopefully to expand the menu in the next week or coming weeks. But yeah, like we talked about earlier, we're just staying busy as possible, doing everything we can to keep revenue and sales up. And it's been used a lot this whole pandemic, but just constantly pivoting and changing. But yeah, the two main forms of our income right now are either in-home private dinners or the restaurant sales.
So I have to ask, with your guys' concept and kind of where it started, as a career, do you see this, being able to be a table service restaurant? I mean, Hooters and Twin Peaks and, Tilted Kilt, they're, we don't really think of them as risque at this point. I know my girlfriend has made the same comment. Why isn't there, an ability to have this sort of concept, as a table service? And, from your guys' private dinner experience, is there clientele for it?
Yeah, I think potentially yes, of course. We're kind of at a point in our business where we're wondering how to grow that side of the business, and of course, in a private dining sense, it works when you're really close to the customers. But going on a full-fledged restaurant where you have shirtless people serving is a whole different question for a plethora of reasons. Not only the health department, but just kind of in general. But we really kind of, when we're looking at the brand Nude Dude Food, we'd love to grow that aspect of the business in regards to food with real ingredients and just honest food. So that it could be a double entendre like it is now,
Right.
of sorts. But in terms of growing the actual restaurant side of the business, we're not quite sure exactly how we're going to position the brand just yet. But I do think there's a market for it. Yeah, we're just trying, I guess, to find a way to bridge the gap between the Hooters, the Tilted Kilt, and something that's modern and sexy and really gets our whole idea behind food across as well. And that people should just eat real food, not worry as much about dieting, eat real, honest food without processed ingredients. It can be that simple. So we're looking to kind of bridge that gap.
Yeah, I love that duality of meaning there, where you're actually, yes, we are, these hot shirtless men, but at the same time, we're trying to provide this produce, that does come from so and so farm, and we're doing just the right to make that produce perfect, and not, overcomplicating things with all these different ingredients. I
For
think
sure.
that's
And we've, it's been great. It was a great way to launch the brand, and the name is great, and it's got us some really good publicity. We've flown and cooked all over the country. Um, but really we found it's just a talking point to kind of break down those walls of, like Seth said, we don't follow any particular diets, but we eat real food. We try to avoid, overly processed foods. We're actively working out, so it's all about moderation. And because of the brand and the work we've done with kind of the health and wellness community, we've also got a lot of different corporate gigs where we're fully clothed in chef coats, but also have been, paid to speak and volunteer to speak at different, health corporations. I myself, I'm a longtime sufferer of Crohn's disease, which is an inflammatory bowel disease that affects your digestive system. So I've been able to kind of use my personal experience, but not only that, but also then my food knowledge and now our brand with these different agencies and companies, not only to volunteer to help, educate kids and families on healthy eating, but just general nutrition and being able to talk about sustainability and going to your local farmers market and eating, things that are in season like they did, way back when. It shouldn't be rocket science, and everything's farm to table now, but that's the way we all should be eating, to begin with.
100%.
definitely. That idea of farm to table is, what we should just naturally adapt to is really important. I think a lot of people think of it as this like crazy new idea, but it's actually in retrospect like a really really old idea that we're starting to realize that, okay, we need to figure out what's around us and how do we make that sustainable.
Right. Up until 100 years ago or so, that was the only way to eat.
Right.
Only
There was, yeah.
what was from around your region, and of course, then you have all these different cuisines from around the world, which is a beautiful thing. And it's great that we have access to kind of these worldwide ingredients, but also, and not that people shouldn't take advantage of that, they should by all means, but also keep in mind it, like Ryan said, it's everything in moderation. And as long as you can kind of feel good about where the food came from, and just be conscious, make conscious food decisions when you're at the grocery store every day, and you know try to make decisions that affect the world as a whole more positively. And that comes down to educating people on food, I think, at the bottom line. So that's part of the fun of what we get to do too. And at the same time, we want to be fun. So the whole idea, also behind the shirtless thing, especially in people's homes, is to break down those kind of awkward barriers between service and client. It's, if you hire a private chef, a lot of times that experience can be a little awkward when the chef's in the home. They're not maybe interacting with the guests as much. And we kind of want to be the opposite, where we're becoming part of the experience, and then therefore being able to connect with clients on kind of a deeper level. It really feels like we're cooking for friends all the time, which is kind of an amazing thing.
That's definitely a blessing. I know, being in the table service industry, it doesn't always feel like your friends out there when there's 1,000 modifications on a ticket.
For sure.
But I know Vlad has, experience in that private chef sector, and it's definitely a blessing when you're able to interact like that. I know Chicago is definitely, on this trend right now with COVID, with private chefing, and, having these dinners in these odd spaces. You guys touched about it a little bit, having dinners in your own home. And I know Chicago chef Jake, at 42 grams, he sort of started off the same way. What does that experience look like? How does someone get their home ready to turn it into a restaurant?
Yeah, I mean, we don't actually host out of the house too much, especially since COVID. We really haven't done any hosting. Prior to, we were doing some pizza classes or some cooking classes, some dinners, because where we live in the West Loop, we could house about 20 people seated. It's set up kind of like a restaurant because we're just cooking for fun all the time anyway, so we might as well set it up like that. But for the private residences we go into, it's always a challenge for us, and kind of somewhat of an adrenaline rush because, you know, unlike a chef at a restaurant, you know, they know their equipment, they know their space, they know where things are. You know, we're walking into a new, you know, person's home every single night of the weekend or whenever we have events. So, you know, we have to acclimate ourselves very quickly to, you know, what the capabilities of their home kitchen are, what's working, what's not, you know, something, how to even turn on the oven sometimes, or, you know, the biggest thing really is, you know, we'll be prepared as we can and bring our own equipment. We'll do most of the prep off site and then fire plate things and execute while we're at their home. But honestly, yeah, just really kind of the funny thing that we've seen is just like having the space to do what we need to do in homes. You know, we'll get to homes and some are really, really nice depending on where they are, and some are, you know, like kind of like your college apartment or something. So it's always a challenge working with in a new home every night. You know, you don't know how much counter space there is or how much equipment they have, but we do our best to provide everything and bring every pot and pan that we need, and plateware, dishware if needed, all that stuff. But it is a challenge because, yeah, everyone's kitchen's different. Everyone's oven runs a little differently. And yeah, we've seen our fair share of kitchen emergencies or failed equipment in people's homes. And that itself should, you know, be a podcast or a book someday because we've seen a lot and dealt with a lot. But again, it keeps it exciting for us. You know, we're not in a restaurant turning out, you know, hundreds of tables a night. You know, we're really focused on executing one private dinner usually at a time. We may be doing multiple dinners at the same time, but when we're there, our focus is on that table, those clients. So we really want to execute as well as possible, and then also provide that front of house interaction so they make, you know, we have a good impression on them, they enjoy the night. And then most of our business then also comes from referrals, and, you know, whether it's through social media or they were a guest at another dinner we did in our event. So that's been a great way to spread the brand organically. Really, it's just through word of mouth and referrals.
No, and that's amazing. And I think, you know, like Doug was pointing out, I think a lot of chefs found themselves in, you know, the COVID times at, you know, the no job and no certainty when, you know, restaurants are going to come back and you'd be able to get what position you'd be able to get, kind of took things into their own hands and, you know, got really creative. And, you know, we've talked to a couple people that were in Chicago, you know, one's doing like meals to go and switching it up every week. One was doing jardiniere and doing like different, you know, SKUs on that. And I'm really interested, you know, in finding out, you know, how did you guys get in the sourdough? You know, was it something that you've always kind of envisioned, or is that something that you guys just like grew to love? Because sourdough became really, really popular with, you know, very trending in terms of what to do with so much time on people's hands that they never had before, and you know,
Yeah.
starting a starter and
Well, it's goes back to a specific date. I can't remember the date specifically. It's about 6 years ago, come March, April, or May, upcoming here. And Ryan's brother had some prior kind of baking experience at a bakery, and neither of us were into bread. Really, even thought that we would bake bread like we did. But he got us the Tartine book on bread and kind of their methodology for baking at home, how to create your own starter, and a few kind of basic equipments, a dough blade and maybe a lamb. I can't remember what all he purchased for us, but I remember reading the first chapter of that book, and that kind of goes through everything behind the fermentation process to how to create your own starter to how to mix your first batch of dough. And it all seems so easy yet fascinating at the same time. It's like all of this exists in this first chapter of the book. Where is this going to lead to? So that made it easy enough for us to kind of get going on it. We're like, yeah, let's try creating our own starter, which we still have versions of the original one today now. So that's about 6 years old. But you know, our first breads looked like shit. It was like a hockey puck, or you know, really dense and heavy. But even then, with shitty bread, you could still cut off a slice and dip it in some olive oil or slather some butter on it or toast it up, and it didn't taste bad by any means. So yeah, I think once we really started diving into what it meant kind of for fermenting grains and flours and long-term fermentation, um, it just became a quick obsession, and we found ourselves doing it every single week. It kind of goes hand in hand with how the business started. Originally, we were kind of like, oh my god, if we could like learn how to bake really well and just bake bread for people and like hand it out or something, like, or feed our friends with bread, like that would be amazing. Like that's all we wanted to do with bread. That started happening quickly, and lo and behold, after the business started, it became a staple at every single event that we've done, which was good for us because it not only allowed us to hone in our skills, because we're not professional bakers. We don't, deal with 300 loaves a day. It was kind of all kind of by hand, figuring things out on our own and reading up and just practicing, week to week. So our clients got to be the guinea pigs, and, essentially we got paid to kind of test run some products on them, and it got better over time, and it's still getting better. It changes every single day. Like Ryan said, we might be doing 50, 100, even 150 loaves in a week, but still we're not doing it every single day. So yeah, it's hard to compare us to a professional commercial bakery because we just realistically aren't. But that doesn't mean we don't make good bread, and that it's not made with love and care and thought. And I think people really understand that about our process. When they taste it, like it's bread born out of love and care, and just kind of the willingness to want to learn that process. And we've since taught other people how to bake as well, because it's something that it's a skill that you can learn at home and can kind of pay handsome dividends for the rest of your life. So it's all been really a blessing for us, thanks to his brother buying us that first book and getting us going, and it quickly became a staple of the business.
No, that's awesome, and it's awesome to see how we're telling the evolution of, you know, you don't start off making the best loaf of sourdough bread and your
No, you don't.
crumb isn't gonna look amazing, and your starter also needs time to mature, and everything kind of builds up with experience and repetition. So that's really cool, and obviously the sourdough you guys I have now is beautiful, and I would say 10 out of 10 on that. So it's amazing to see what consistency can result, and I think you guys are really great at showcasing that, and you guys do a lot of creative stuff, and for a lot of like chefs kind of in my position who are starting to do private gigs and stuff like that, I think one of the hardest positions I personally find myself is well, one obviously is how do you network, and I know referrals work great and work wonders, and that's all on you during the event, but kind of the like on booking process, and if you guys would be how have you evolved in that as well, like kind of like your first interactions with the clients, and do you guys do the menu planning? Is everything custom to each person? Is there certain items that, like you were saying, the sourdough became a standard on every menu? Kind of how would you describe that, and like your early experiences doing that, and then like how have you efficientized that process?
Sure. Yes. I mean, way back when, well, even today, we still answer every email. So every client that emails us asking us, every client that DMs us or um, tweets us, whatever it may be, we're answering those emails, those calls personally. So it's still, that connected from that first interaction. You're personally speaking with not only the chefs but also the business owners. So there's that connection from that very first email. Now, as we grow, we try to put some of that into administrative assistant, that's a close friend, and some that holds the same values as us. But really, we're still involved in every part of the business, from that first initial email to executing and even cleaning up the night we're there. Now, when it started, again, it's always been about, fresh, seasonal, locally sourced ingredients. Way back when we started almost 4 years ago, we weren't as busy as we were pre-COVID when we're going and doing 3 dinners a night sometimes, doing 12 in a weekend or something. But in the beginning, we would pretty much customize every menu to every client, which was fun and exciting for us. But also as it grew, not really realistic. It was fun to have the flexibility and the creativity to cook whatever we wanted, whenever we wanted. And a lot of clients would, be open to us being creative. And they were saying, maybe these are some of my likes. This is some of my ideas for what this dinner, the theme may be, whatever the type of event was. But outside of that, we really get a lot of leeway to pitch whatever menu we want to cook, which again makes us feel super creative, because we get to do what we want to do, and we're going to put our best effort into something that we're really passionate about cooking and putting on a plate. Now, flash forward to today when we're doing more dinners. Again, everything is still sourced locally from farmers markets. But now we're trying to just make it a little easier on ourselves. So we're not doing a completely different set of prep one day to the other. So we're doing now more seasonal or even like monthly menus that are focused on the season, specialize in certain produce that's in season and things like that. And then even still within that menu, let's say it's a 6-course seated dinner, there's still options. There's maybe an either or, a few salad choices or a few main options, dessert. So the client always has options and choices. But as we've grown over the years, we've realized to help our sanity and ourselves, doing some kind of preset type of menus has helped us a lot.
I think
100%.
that's, yeah, like natural evolution of the business. As you start to pick up, you gotta, develop what you can and streamline what you can as well. It makes more sense to be able to promise everybody the same thing. It would be a massive undertaking to have to do 12 customized menus in a weekend. I can only imagine.
Yeah, it was real fun until you get a few parties that wanted completely different things, and then you end up 6 courses turns into 12 or 18 different things. You're prepping with multiple setups and ingredients on each plate, and then you have the dietary restrictions or modifications too, which is always, as a part of our business, we've always been happy to accommodate, within reason, I guess. But yeah, I mean, vegan, pescatarian, any kind of gluten-free modification, we have accommodated as much as we can. So, and we're happy to do that. That also, for us in execution, makes it more difficult. And of course, you get the people that flip-flop, like, oh, I'm vegetarian, but then we show up with lobster oh, but I eat the lobster, and we're like, well, we didn't buy enough. You always get people that, oh,
Right.
I'm gluten-free, I have celiac disease, and then you go there, they're eating the pasta, and it's like, so again,
But
that
this
might
is
go back
really
to
tasty gluten, chef. I'll eat the
Yeah,
tasty
so
gluten.
it's always,
Yeah.
as the customer, we try to make them happy no matter what. If they want the food and we have it, we'll give it to them. But again, it makes it more difficult again. And it's nice that we're involved from that initial email, but that's the things that we don't want to spend a lot of time on is, asking guests like about any allergies, legit food allergies. And a lot of times you get back like, Susie doesn't like shrimp and so doesn't. You get just this long list of likes and dislikes. I'm like, no, like that's not what we asked.
Right.
Like,
Allergies.
legit.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist. This is not an allergy. So again, we always try to accommodate, but it's kind of funny, all the preparation we do, and then we get on site and it's not even accurate. So that's a challenge, but kind of in the back of house, kind of a joke sometimes when we do all this separate preparation for someone that come to find out actually doesn't even have half of these things or something. So
It's a definite truth. I've had a lot of times where I'll go to Links Inn to make a gluten-free dish, and then the server lets me know that that guest really enjoyed the bread service. So it's it's a battle of the beast.
Yep.
So as you guys talked about a little bit of this, private dining and these bachelorette parties, as there's some sort of details that you guys can share with us, as I'm sure there's been some crazy moments going into these people's houses, cooking for them, and the stories of how other people live is probably a lot different than some people realize, all the different lifestyles.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stories. A ton we can tell, probably some that we shouldn't, but really, I mean, I think and it's like not even specific story wise. It's interesting being two male chefs cooking for, again, in the early years, primarily celebratory women's focused bachelorette parties, bridal showers. And you never know not only what, kitchen you're going to walk into, but also like what the vibe is like. We've walked into kitchens and homes where it's a raging party and they're just like bouncing off the walls, doing all the things. And, then, we're trying to focus on executing a meal and they're all over the place. And, so it makes it a challenge for us. And then there's other times where they're a little more subdued and into the food, but then sometimes we have to kind of amp the energy up a little bit more if it's like a really slow crowd. So it's really constantly changing for us, whether they're, the raging, screaming, same penis forever bachelorette parties, we see all the same stuff, all the paraphernalia, which, from the average viewer, the person, our male friends, like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. You guys have the best job ever, being like objectified by women. But
Yeah,
at
it
the same
goes.
time,
It definitely goes
I don't
both
mean to
ways.
complain either, but at the same time, it's like sometimes like, man, I just want to cook. I don't want, it's like, I'm not a stripper, I'm not like, don't touch me kind of thing, Um, but
Don't throw ones in my face while I'm plating your food.
yeah, and we're, to clarify too for everyone, we're shirtless with an apron, but pants stay on. Obviously, everything else stays on. And even in our initial email, we'll talk about, not only the menu, but that's what the uniform is. We show up in chef coats, serve a course or two maybe, and then get into the uniform. But that's it. But even still, by putting all those parameters out there, we still get parties and some guests that are just like, "You're not naked, like show us that dick, let's go." And we're like, "Oh my God." Like,
Whoa,
so
whoa.
again,
Like walking in the door.
so
Yeah, right. Those are those parties where you don't have to amplify the energy anymore.
exactly.
Yeah.
The
And
energy is already there.
some of those are happy to just cook, get in and get out. And, but it keeps it fun and exciting. And honestly, even those parties, at the end of the event, people are really blown away by the quality of the food, whether they found us on Instagram and hired us because of the image, even those type of dinners, we leave those events, with, like I said, new friends, colleagues, referrals, because it really is about the food at the end of the day. It just so happens we cook, shirtless sometimes.
Yeah, a good I guess there are two kind of examples at opposite ends of the spectrum on kind of like the craziness that we've dealt with. I specifically remember one party, we'll just say there was chocolate syrup, whipped cream, a cash shooter, and then all the women were dancing on the table, drinking straight vodka and tequila from the bottles by the end of the night. So that was like an interesting, crazy end of the spectrum. On the other end, we got hired to cook for 10 mostly male executives from Intercontinental based out of the Atlanta area. We were on a mountaintop in North Carolina and we did, I think, 5 separate services for them over the course of 36 hours. We prepped in a little like cottage that we were staying in that barely had cooking equipment, and then did literally 5 services. No service help, no dishwashing help. It was probably the longest day of or day and a half of our careers, but that was another interesting story. And the other end of the spectrum where it's fully clothed and we're just doing this crazy 5 services prepping out of this little cottage on top of a mountain. It's like, okay, but I mean, you learn a lot in both scenarios, and both are equally as fun for different reasons.
And touching on what Seth said too, not only that, but just being able to cook in other cities all over the country. We're not tied down. Well, at the time we weren't in a restaurant every day. So we've, over the years, we've flown to New Orleans, the Hamptons, Malibu, Mexico, really a lot of amazing food cities. So I see you have the Anthony Bourdain shirt on, and, kind of just it's a luxury for us, and really gratifying for us to be able to travel for work and see other food cultures and try the local cuisine. And we're based here in Chicago, but being able to fly to New Orleans and hit the ground running, or maybe we're in Nashville or Austin and finding local butcher shops, local farmers markets is great. But also then for us to maybe have a little bit of time ourselves to explore some of the restaurant scene and the food culture all over the country has been something really fun and of value to us as we've started and grown the brand.
It's definitely a value, that idea of being able to travel and eat all over the country and, perhaps the world one day is definitely something that is super, I think, crucial to a lot of chefs. They want to be able to see what other chefs are doing and be able to try different foods and cuisines. Hitting back to a little bit about, those successes and before you guys got in your stride, what was that first, private event look like for you guys? At the end of that, did you guys, look at each other and say, hey, I think we have something here? Where was those sort of, moments in the beginning?
I think it kind of just happened organically, and you know, we made mistakes along the way, but it really started at home. And by the time we started the business, we had been cooking enough for other friends and family at home where it seemed to flow pretty naturally, where it's like, okay, and we did some backyard barbecues and stuff. We were cooking for 75, 100 people of our friends. And, again, not everything was perfect, but it was executable. And we were like, oh, wait, I think we can do this at a little bigger quantity. So really, I'm trying to remember some of the very, very early ones and how those went. But honestly, it seemed to flow, thankfully, pretty naturally, which I guess is a testament to how much we had practiced at the time. But, without any former back of the house kitchen experience, it was a lot to learn. And it really was learning on the fly. And, the environment in which we cooked was makes you learn really quick. Like Ryan touched on, every stove is different, every oven is different, so you really have to pay attention to what you're doing, the process and your ingredients, and you learn a lot about how to cook in those situations. But thankfully it flowed pretty well. I'm trying to think of a few like big oh shit moments near the beginning.
Not really too much. I mean, for me, I was coming from, I was a social worker, a licensed social worker in the city for almost 14 years prior to taking the leap to do this full time. And so that, I think, for me was the scariest part, from having like a paid, consistent job that I wasn't worried about, where my next, meal or paycheck was going to come. It's just, I knew I had direct deposit, but I was just getting so burnt out in that career. I was ready for a complete change, hence, the food brand. But that was as an early, business owner and chef business, it was, hard to, that was the hardest part, was like, now you're your own boss. You have to get the business yourself. You need to go out there and advertise. Thankfully social media helped a bunch. We started doing some local TV appearances here on like Windy City Live within the first 6 months of starting the business. We did a bunch of work in San Diego and LA. So even just, within that first 6 months of launching the business and the Instagram and all the things, we were hitting the ground running. So we knew we were onto something, especially in the summer months, being, private dinners and bachelorette parties and, all these types of events where people are outside and mingling and want to entertain. That first summer was great. And then after that, it was just, now how longevity wise do we keep this momentum up in the brand? And, especially even in winter months, that's, it's slower for restaurants, it's slower for us potentially too. But how to evolve over the year from, again, doing a lot of, bachelorette focused events to doing more corporate things. So it's been an ever evolving, ever learning experience for both of us.
With kind of touching base on, starting and evolving a business, into all our young culinarians or people listening that, whatever position they are in, that kind of want to go and start and evolve their business, how did this idea like formalize in terms of like, how did you get to Nude Dude Food? Like, was that something that, you guys went back and forth on, and like, what was like, yes, that's it, we're going with that?
It comes down to a few specific nights. Again, entertaining friends, having them over for dinner. We'd been baking bread a couple years at this point, and a couple female friends of ours came over, and I think it was them specifically who were kind of like, hey, why don't you just sell the sex of it? Like, create a brand and sell the sex of what you guys do at home. And we're like, what do you mean? So a plethora of names, tatted guys in the kitchen, hot guys cooking, all terrible names, which
Terrible first
not that
renditions.
Nude Dude Food is any better, but at least it stuck. But yeah, that's kind of what started the brainstorming process. A few weeks later, we had a bunch of guy friends over. I think we were drinking and whatever else we might have been doing that night, and started throwing some more names around in the hopper. And someone said Nude Dude Food. I think two of our friends actually take credit for it. Um, that was a real light bulb moment for Ryan and I. I mean, instantaneously, we kind of all sat and looked at each other on the table. We're like, oh, that sounds nice. Like, has some ring to it. That night, we went and secured all the social media sites, the website, Instagram, Twitter. Nothing with Nude Dude Food was taken at all. So we kind of felt lucky in that regard too. And then we sat on it for 6 months because we had no idea what the hell we were going to do with it. What is this? We're not nude. We cook, but not professionally yet. What the hell are we going to do with this thing? 6 months later, this is now May of 2016. The same group of guy friends came over, and one of them, a long time college friend of mine, Ryan's known for about 20 years as well, said, you guys are posting tonight. It's gonna happen. We're gonna start this Instagram account tonight. We're like, all right. So he's like, pop the tops off with your shirts. And we grabbed we had aprons on. We grabbed, I think, a pizza peel and a pepper grinder. And that was the first post. It was like, hey, we're Nude Dude Food, two longtime friends that love to cook and share food. That was it.
It was the name and then the image and that pairing. Because if somebody was scrolling by, excuse me, and saw the words Nude Dude Food or saw two shirtless tatted guys in their feed, they'd be like, wait, like, what is this? So again, it's been a great like conversation starter. And our, and it goes back to also, the nude is, it's a play on words. There's some nudity, but it's really more about the nude nature of the ingredients in the food, going back to, again, my health conditions and being focused on, putting healthy foods in your body, but what that involved and evolved to was more just like, we want people to eat well, but then but feel good too. So like even on our slogan is eat well, feel sexy. So yeah, like meaning like eat good food, but it's not going to leave you heavy and bloated and have all these issues. Because we wanted to kind of play on both of those. So the nude of being, our image, but also then just like also health focused. So we kind of threw those together, and there was the name, and here we are now.
I think that's incredible to talk about, the physical well-being of chefs as well, and them being able to recognize that. There's that saying out there, never trust a skinny chef. And, that's something, that I grew up with in culinary school, and a lot of my chefs, they didn't put themselves first. And, a lot of them paid for that with a lot of different health problems. And, it's something that I pride myself in too, is like always making sure that you find, those 30 minutes or, whatever it is to, stretch, go for a run, go for a walk, whatever you have to do, but making sure that you keep your own health at top of mind. Something that one of my mentors told me is, you look like you cook. So, as long as you are able to take care of yourself, then you're going to be able to take care of your guest. And I think it's really cool that you guys are, developing that message, for guests, but also for other industry professionals, where I don't think that's being said enough.
Yeah, definitely. And as much as when the initial name kind of came about and we didn't quite know what we wanted to do, it really became an integral part of developing the brand from an early stage. And we wanted something that we could both feel good about ourselves. And, I was a former professional musician, did about 150 performances a year, and that lifestyle was not sustainable. So developing this brand, that was kind of in the front of our minds, is creating those talking points, not only for ourselves, but hopefully, influencing our guests and other people in the hospitality industry to really kind of take care of themselves, and whatever that means. It's different for everybody, but that kind of became an important part of the brand development process early on for us. But it's great to be able to share that with others. and we don't have all the answers. You know, we're learning things every day along the way too, and it's just it's starting a conversation and opening the doors for people to talk about it, you know, more openly.
Definitely, that conversation I think is long overdue in the hospitality industry. I know myself, I was close to 280 pounds when I graduated high school, and down to 194 right now. It was it was hard to do, but it was harder to do in the hospitality industry, where that idea of you know just grind it out, just work the long hours. You can eat at 1 a.m. when you get off your shift, and go to sleep and wake up, and so that idea of put yourself second is definitely driven home, and I think it's important that you guys are spreading that message.
For sure. Yeah, we're happy to do so, and look forward to continuing the conversation too as things develop.
Yeah, and I think you guys, I mean, in terms of what I see personally, you guys do a lot of things with, workouts and, with gyms and collaborating. How did that kind of start, and like, did it build up organically? And did you guys just like reach out to gyms and start, doing collaborations, or were you guys, involved in that type of a community prior to like New Dude Foods and?
Sure. It kind of happened again organically. We were already again actively working out. Seth's a big rock climber, so goes to First Ascent and Brooklyn Boulders, and I've been a member at Export before, different weightlifting type hit interval gyms. But we actually found two of our chefs that we work with now. We were looking for chefs really, and got connected through referrals that, hey, there's these guys that happen to be personal trainers that work at these gyms, but they're great personalities. They also can cook. They look the part. So it kind of happened first finding other potential hires, and then once we connected with them, we formed this this bond and relationship, and then also shared similar food values and fitness values that if one of our guys used to work at Orange Theory Fitness. One of our chefs now still works at Studio 3, which is a big gym in the city. So again, as much as our brand goes hand in hand, a lot of our other staff outside of just us also hold those same values. Because again, hiring, someone to if you're looking for a chef to hire for bachelorette parties, your inbox would fill up with who knows what kind of people and stuff like that. So, it really takes someone that not only can cook, but more importantly, do that front of house work and be appropriate and be able to be in front of a crowd and talk, and also maintain boundaries, right? I mean, there's a lot of fun to be had, cooking in front of fun guests and things like that, but also the execution has to be on point. And we found that luckily some of our male chefs also work in that fitness industry, and it's just a really cohesive match.
And I
It's
think you,
definitely
yeah, I was just gonna say, I think you guys really do truly, breathe and live everything you guys, stand and preach for, and it's truly awesome to see. And you guys really built an awesome community around you, that is very supportive of you guys, and everybody's rooting kind of for you. So it's been really awesome to witness that from the side. And
Thank you. I don't know if everybody's rooting for us, but that's okay. I mean, there's a lot of tradition, and we have a lot of respect for people in the culinary industry that have gone about it in a more traditional sense, going to culinary school, working up through restaurants. And obviously there's some technique and stuff like that that we didn't get to learn, and we're a little envious of that. At the same time, our position kind of affords us a lot of freedom to act creatively, and really find a good way to connect with ultimately the guest, which is important. So it's we've been lucky enough to do that, but I could easily see a few chefs that would scoff at kind of our path of business here, if you will. But that's okay, and I appreciate the support, and I think once people get to know us, they understand a little bit more about who we are, and what we're trying to do and what we stand for with food, and in the industry. And then I think it makes a little more sense to people. But they could easily look at us and be like, hey, what are these? These guys just took off their shirts and that's it, and they're trying to capitalize on
Yeah,
that.
they're heating up pigs in a
Yeah,
blanket. That's
it's
what they're
funny.
doing.
Love those, by the way.
We we were in
Delicious.
actually in San Diego. Chef Works now sponsors us. Actually, they give us some products, and we got flown out to San Diego to do a chef competition with Kat Suji from Barrio and some other chefs that were based out of Chicago, but all over the country. And we ended up winning the competition. I mean, we thought we had no chance going up against these top chefs that have been, cooking all over the world, multi restaurant owners and entrepreneurs. But it was an audience vote, and yeah, based on trying the food. And I mean, hopefully, the image got us some votes. I'm not gonna lie, but you know, it's now it's 2020. What is it? 2021 now. Because things don't have to be the same. You don't have to do this traditional route to starting as the dishwasher, working your way up and doing all these things. There really is no rules anymore. So for us to be in the situation we are, to be able to spread awareness of healthy eating, but also be who we want to be and cook what we want to do. Who's to say we have an advantage over someone that has 5 restaurants and 100,000 followers and all these TV appearances. That's their thing, that gets them popularity. But kind of to each their own. We thought of a clever way to build a brand and spread awareness, and thankfully we're where we are today because of all that.
Yeah, I think we knew at that moment though that like we could compete on a culinary stage at that level, which was important for us. We're kind of like, oh, we do have this, and not that we've doubted it a whole lot before, but it's just reassuring when you can go up against some really great, well-known chefs and end up pulling out a win. It made us feel good about where we're, what we've become kind of in the culinary world.
Definitely, I think those affirmations and building that confidence is definitely key, for sure. Did you guys feel that the fact of going against this grain was something that you guys experienced early on, or is it kind of something you guys still struggle with now? Because I think, like you said, everybody each their own. You guys aren't selling a 3 Michelin star dinner, and then providing a 1 Michelin star dinner, but now there's this image involved, and people, it's not like a bamboozle effect. You guys are in your lane, you guys are selling what you're selling, and I think you find success in that. Do you find a lot of people still have that angst against you all?
Not really. I mean, and like Seth touched on earlier, I think people, once they get to know us or hire us and we're in front of you or taking a phone call talking about the menu and your event, they really can see who we are. So regardless of what uniform I'm wearing that night, it's about that connection with the client or the customer. And I think over the years, people have seen that in the things that we've done for the community, or being shut down in COVID, we were donating meals to the hospitals, or helping out in other volunteer opportunities. But it's really because that's just who we are. We're maybe you see an image of tatted chefs, shirtless, and you maybe have these assumptions, but really people, once they get to know us, they hire us, they talk to us for 5 minutes, not only see who we are, but then hopefully get to try our food, and then it all comes full circle. They see the passion that we're going to the farmers market, picking up something from that farmer, talking with him, having a personal relationship, turning that product into a meal, and then relaying that message and that food to that customer. You can tell the passion is there from that get-go, from that full process, with our clients too. And I think that's really what has helped kind of solidify us in this community and gain us some respect in this culinary world as well.
Although that said, too, we really haven't gotten a lot of specific negative feedback from the industry. I think we're just kind of guessing that it exists out there. But no, we've been pretty lucky to not have a lot of specific hard pushback against what we're doing. And yeah, we've been kind of welcomed in many ways, kind of across the industry, and which has been not only great for us to learn more about what we're doing, but it's been a good experience from our perspective.
That's awesome that the industry has been so welcoming. I know at times it can seem very cutthroat, but that is sort of the mission me and Vlad are here on, is, developing a sort of community within all these different aspects. We've interviewed table service chefs, we've interviewed quick service, catering, chefs who aren't even in the game anymore. And, still trying to understand that there's some, common thread of equality through all of us, these common bonds and wants, and sort of, this passion does exist with everybody.
For sure.
And kind of jumping off that point, I know you guys are also Cambro ambassadors.
We are.
And my question is, like, when did you guys make that transition, or did you guys start off with Cambros, or did you start off with, like, a bunch of random things that you made do, and then eventually, slowly upgraded to make it
Sure.
more
Yeah.
efficient? And
I mean, we started off with whatever cookware we had in our home, which was a random assortment of junk, really. And that's grown into more piles of junk. But yeah, I mean, now it's, like we'll go to Restaurant Depot and we buy, plastic deli containers, which is kind of an industry standard. Or, now with Cambro in the kitchen, we have a lot more access to those type of materials and tools. But at the beginning, it was, I mean, random. But we had, over the years too, the more we were cooking, the more we were getting some equipment, that we could use. But it was definitely random at first, and nothing of Cambro quality, that's for sure.
But I think the connection with them came about, again, organically. I honestly think they reached out to us, as did kind of the Chef Works sponsorship. It's been nice to get some small perks like that, and notoriety in these big companies, where they see something different that's exciting in the culinary world. We're a small time private chef, but now there's this big worldwide brand behind us and sponsoring us, or posting on their socials and things like that. So it's been fun, as we slowly grow. I think we're still pretty small. We're like 18,000 followers, but they seem to be pretty loyal, organic followers. They engage with us a lot, so it's been nice to kind of partner with some, not only culinary companies to do some sponsor things, but it's always things that we feel passionate about and connected to. We're not ever promoting an ad or a post for something that we don't believe in ourselves. There always has to be some kind of personal connection to us in the quality or whatever product that we're using.
yeah, then
Love that.
that's awesome.
I think it's definitely important to sort of remember, in a sense, where you came from, but always remember that mission statement and where you guys started, and what that idea was. I really love the fact that you guys are, making conversation out of things that, haven't been talked about in a while, and sort of, making a lighthearted, fun of it, and making it approachable, and making people to feel, confident and open to have that conversation about their personal health and, the food that they're eating, and making sure it's coming from a place of, okay, this isn't overly processed. This is going to be good for me. I am going to get some nutrients out of what I'm eating right now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, before we let you guys go, what do you guys have going on? How can our followers sort of, check up on what you guys got going, if they want some of this delicious sourdough that we've talked about this episode?
Sure. Yeah. So the easiest way is almost everything is at Nude Dude Food. So Instagram is our big one. Facebook. That's where you can find all of our postings, any kind of announcements. We do pretty much like a monthly email news blast. For ordering now out of our restaurant space, we use Talk, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with. So on our Instagram, our website, everything is directed to a Talk ordering system. So we do pizza service on Fridays, Saturdays. We have charcuterie boards, sourdough bread for sale. Actually, this Sunday, we're doing a special Valentine's Day pop-up dinner at the space. So we're doing, I think, a 6-course dinner. We're doing 2 different seatings. So that's available for sale on through Talk. And we hope to, as we grow, expand the menu, expand the hours, hopefully periodically do kind of fun themed, pop-up exclusive tasting menus type dinners here and there. Really just being creative and utilizing the space as much as possible. We're at 817 West Fulton Market, which is the old Semita's Puebla space. but we're right next door to like PQM, Joe's Imports, Boqueria. So it's an amazing restaurant street and few blocks. So yeah, that's the easiest way to find us, whether they're walking by, they're looking us up on Instagram, or again, all our ordering is done through Talk.
I like that concept of, maximum utilization of a space. I think those themed pop-up dinners could be quite popular, especially if you guys get fun with it. As soon as, COVID restrictions
For
lift and
sure.
everything else, I think people are going to be looking for an experience like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Doug, and Chef Ryan and Seth, it's been such a pleasure, talking and getting to know you guys a little bit better, and kind of getting, all the stories and details. You guys shared a lot of inspiring and true statements of real life experiences, and I know that not only motivates me and helps me see that it is possible, and you just got to keep being consistent with it, and keep working at your craft and keep true to your mission. We have one last question that we kind of wanted to ask and started asking all our chefs, and kind of trying to get down to the root of where it originated from, and if you guys know where it's from or when it first stumbled upon in your careers. So, Doug, if you want to do the honors.
Yes. So, chefs, something that's been boggling our minds here at Late Night with Chefs, we are trying to figure out the origin of why 86. Why do we use the number 86 so, commonplace within the food and beverage industry? When did you guys first hear it? When is sort of, your experience with that?
I feel like I've researched this at some point before, but now I'm blanking on what it actually is. The first time I heard it was my first restaurant position in college. I was working at Famous Dave's Barbecue. Started as a host when I was 19, moved up to server, and of course, when we were
Famous Dave's, it was trash can lid. I like it.
Oh yeah, I ate a lot of barbecue the last 2 years of college. It was also the heaviest I was ever probably in my life, which was a fun thing. But yeah, that was the first time I heard the term. God, any guesses as to what?
Yeah, I don't know the answer. I mean, obviously, I don't come from the culinary world. Obviously, we've been connected with a lot of great chefs and brands, and I know Vlad, you too, like True Cooks has been a cool, really kind of awesome, organic, chef-driven clothing brand. So, we have a bunch of their apparel, and it's all over some of their shirts and stuff like that. But obviously, for us, up until this point, being private chefs, hopefully we're not yelling 86 to each other, because that means we messed up really bad. But I don't personally know the origins of it. Are you thinking of it?
Are you guys going to tell us the right answer at the end of this?
No. So as it stands now, we've gotten many different answers, right? So we're just kind of really trying to put you on the spotlight and see what you guys can come up with.
Yeah. We got a lot of interesting answers. Yeah. I think we got an answer yesterday that sounded the most logical out of the answers, and it was related to sometime back in, I guess, the end of World War II, when all the military guys came back and were looking for other jobs. They were in a kitchen, and so I guess the key 8 and the key 6 relates to a radio or something to the effect of T and O, which is throw out. And so they're correlated to 86. That was Chef Amar's explanation last night, which is definitely the most logical. We've gotten a lot of hilarious, funny answers, and I'm sure we'll get a lot more. But we always, it boggles our minds. We literally will yell it in a kitchen, and, as soon as you yell it, everybody understands. There's no question what it means. But where did it come from? Why are we all just so okay with this, this number pattern that means a very specific thing, a very specific action, but yet the origin of it just kind of remains a mystery?
I need to look into
I
this.
know. That's a great question. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Chefs. Well, yeah, it was a pleasure having you on the pod. Doug, if you want to kind of wrap everything up with us.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank all of our followers and everybody from Nude Dude Food that came over to watch our podcast and check us out. And, all of our followers, if you guys are, ever in the Chicago area and you guys want a private dinner or some really good sourdough or some pizza or maybe your next corporate event, please check out Nude Dude Food. you guys heard it here first. They're, you know, trying to take a different approach to food, trying to make those conversations that, you know, haven't been had and need to be had. So can definitely appreciate their mission and what they got going for our industry.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having us, and best of luck to you. And hopefully we can see each other in person before too long. But yeah, it's been a pleasure speaking with you guys.
Will do. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experiences and, you know, chatting with us and hanging out with us for
Yeah.
a nice cozy hour.
Anytime, man. Have a good night, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Good night, everybody. Please
Bye.
stay safe and wear your masks.
We are now